Acton Select Board, September 24th, 2019, here at 3:30 in Town Office. First on the docket is Selectmen update. Fortunately, I have to read this letter, but it says, "Dear John, please accept this letter of resignation informing both you and Barbara that I will not be continuing as my role as Selectman beyond next week's meeting scheduled for September 24th. I've accepted a job offer that is a great opportunity for me and my family, but I will no longer permit me to serve as a Selectman. I've enjoyed my time serving as a Selectman over the past 7.5 years, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity that has been given to me by the voters. I've served with Jerry Dockery III, Bill Lockhart, Dick Bennett, and Barbara Campbell sorry about that, at various times throughout my tenure, and I feel I've learned a lot from each one of them. I would particularly like to thank you for all that you've done for me. You were on the board since 2012 when I joined, and you are still in your position today. That says a lot about your commitment to the town. I really admire the leadership you've shown in your role as Selectman. We have a staff in place that is second to none, and I will especially miss working with them. It has been my privilege to have served the town in this capacity. Sincerely, Bob Thompson, former Selectman of Jackson." So I'll take a motion to accept Bob's resignation with regret, I would think.
Yes, I will make a motion with regret to accept Bob's resignation.
I will second that. Any discussion on that?
No.
No. I thank Bob very much for his service. Definitely well-versed in the conversation and level-headed, and I really appreciate everything that he's done over the years, and his commitment to the town is also well noted, and duly noted, I should say. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thanks again, Bob, for doing that.
Yes.
Item number 2A, I guess, is to, discuss a possible replacement. In the past, we've kind of thought about, and while it's nothing written in stone, having people who have been former selectmen, because they already select people, I should say, because they've had the knowledge and advanced knowledge of our government, and therefore it's a little easier to slip into the role as opposed to somebody who might not be so well in tuned. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But.
I think that's a good call, and unfortunately, he couldn't make it. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think that's a good choice too, especially as it's a short term, so it's something that we can, like you said, put in place right away for someone that's been in the seat.
I would, entertain, considering Dick Bennett for that position. I know that you have other thoughts there, but Dick obviously has served on the board many times and was a past member, but
right. I agree with you. I think that's a prudent choice at this time.
Care to make a motion on that? Or?
I will make a motion to ask Dick Bennett if he would like to join us at the select board for the next remaining term.
I will second that. Any discussion?
Do you have to ask Dick?
I'm supposed to have to ask Dick. Would you be willing to serve that capacity, sir?
Should I enter into the discussion?
Yes, please.
I think I could be helpful. I don't think the learning curve would be too much to retrain me, and I do have the time to put into it, so...
I'm not giving you your key back, though. You're going to have to get Bob's.
Oh, and I'll save the town some money because I still have my nameplate.
Also, your work with the solar panels, obviously,
Yeah.
continue with that capacity as you were before, but having it on the board again would be a nice little extra caveat.
Yeah, jump in, hit the ground running.
I've stayed up with it and talked with Patrick about how it's developing up there, and I'm still really interested. So, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to serve and to do it as we all do it together.
Thank you.
So I have to make that motion again that they join the select board.
We'll second that motion. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. thank you very much for doing that. Appreciate it.
And would you write a letter and I bring it to the town clerk and get sworn and?
I think that's the process there, yeah.
Yes, we'll do the oath, we'll write the letter, and
You can come to the office tomorrow.
Okay,
All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
Approval of minutes, item number 3, from September 10th.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes as I have reviewed them and have no changes.
Took the words right out of my mouth. All righty, I will second that. Any discussion?
No?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, action items. I'll give you a copy of that. Here we go, copies. Come on, fingers. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Julie had some update on Chief's response to the covered bridge.
Yes, he submitted a response to Kevin Pratt's question about observing, monitoring, speeding down by the covered bridge.
All right, so he wants me to read this here.
Yeah.
It says, "Hi, Julie, please forward to Selectmen answer the question raised by last meeting regarding speeders at the covered bridge. Here's the history and our agency response." I should probably put the timer on.
Read that.
Here's the history and our agency response regarding complaints of excessive speed on the covered bridge. 5/14/2019, Kevin Pratt raises a concern about speeding vehicles on the covered bridge. This was during a period when the time was actually closed for repairs and rehab. It was anticipated the bridge would be opening in the near future. 5/23, the same year, the covered bridge reopens to traffic. 6/3 on 2019, a directed patrol is assigned to the area to monitor speed, and a directed patrol is dedicated patrol assigned to a specific area for a specific task. These types of actions are usually in response to a citizen's complaint, unlawful activity, or other public safety concern. And on that date, 16 directed patrols have been logged. Till today, from 6/3 till today, 16 directed patrols have been logged. The one dedicated patrol for speed enforcement per week. Stops were executed for speed offenses as well as oversized vehicle violations. Speed offenses resulted in 6 warnings and no summonses. 1 citation was issued for oversized vehicle, and 1 oversized vehicle was prevented from crossing the bridge prior to the violation. The officer's best guess, averaged by radar speed measurement over the 16 weeks observed period, was 17 to 20 miles per hour on the bridge. Although the speed limit is 15, warnings are within the bounds of proper officer discretion for low-level offenses such as these. I hope this information clarifies any question you or any citizen has. If you have any additional information or need any additional information, feel free to let me know. Respectfully submitted, Chief Chris Pearl, Jackson Police Department." So that was his response on that.
Did he indicate whether or not they were going to be continuing? I mean, I would assume they probably are.
He didn't say.
Okay.
I mean, it's some.
Because it's always a current issue.
Yeah, I would imagine it's going to be a current and continuous issue over there, and it dedicates 1 directed patrol per week. That's certainly not an unreasonable amount of time, used in preventing speeding offenses and oversized vehicles, etc. And hopefully that can hopefully be maintained.
Slow down, yeah.
Any other questions or comments on that?
Nope.
Library.
I was asked to see how the library trustees felt about the possibility of buses parking in the lower lot. And it was an unofficial meeting, but there was an email, I guess, that went around to everyone, and they said that they felt it was a town lot and that they didn't have any issue with it.
All right. And this is from Denise Sachs. This is, "Hi, Jill, I ran by the trustees, not an official meeting, so it was done by via email. Our next meeting is not until October 8th. All those who responded to me agreed that this is a town lot, and we do not see any issues with inhibiting parking for the library, others of that matter. Thanks for asking." So, good. And I guess on October 8th we'll get an update.
I don't know that she was going to necessarily revisit but maybe.
All right, and then a DRA response on parking. Date me on this one.
What's that?
RSA.
I'll update you on that. They said that the town has the authority to make that parking for buses if they want, and,
Oh, over here.
yeah.
Okay. And that's RSA, 41:11-A. And then there's a RSA 53-A:3-2, which describes the process.
Well, there were 2 questions answered. That might not be, just read the highlight.
Oh, that's a transfer station, I'm sorry. That's transfer station.
There were 2 questions.
Under RSA 41:11-A, the select board manages in the use of town property. This management authority would include the ability to permit the school bus parking on public parking during the winter months. So
Right.
that closes that, I guess. Alrighty. Anything else on action items? Did I get them all?
Yes.
Alright. Folding my papers over, so there we go. All right, so next meeting's October 8th, Tuesday, of course, and October 21st, 3:30, and then the
22nd.
22nd, sorry, October 8th and October 22nd, November 12th and November 26th will be the next November meetings. All right, item number 5, Valley Crossroad Bridge update. All right, so what do we got here, Burr?
So we got Steve Langevin, did I pronounce that? Perfect. Wow, I did. I always see it, I'm never sure how to pronounce it. But from GPI, they're obviously the bridge consultants that are helping us out with, or more than helping us out with the Valley Crossroad Bridge. So originally, we sort of wanted them to come in to discuss the trusses because DOT doesn't want to pay for taking the trusses off and putting them back on again. So we want to discuss options for potentially doing it ourselves or eliminating them or those items. Also, I think Julia brought up the idea of, some of our early meetings where there was a lookout on the bridge was something we were considering having, and some walkways approaching the bridge. So we just really got Steve in here to answer those questions, but I think he's got even some ideas and some more things to go over with you guys. So I'll let Steve run through it. So.
I got the landscape architects involved again, so I have some illustrations for you. Actually, Barbara, I haven't met you yet before.
Right.
I'm Steve Langevin.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
I have a little care packet for you, Valley Crossroad care packet. It has a lot of information there that you've missed so far, and it's all the excitement, such as the scope, actually, last time we were here was a year ago tomorrow to present it was before we started the study phase. So I brought all that information. I brought the letter from New Hampshire DOT, the scope, and the engineering report. So
Okay.
I have a packet over there for you.
Perfect, thank you.
This is high tech here. I'm old. I don't like PowerPoint presentations. I like just putting up pictures and talking about them. So what we did here, I'm going to try to orient it so that people can see it. And I'll give you guys another copy. It's 11 by 17. Just showing Burr previously. So as Burr talked about, New Hampshire DOT elected not to participate in the cost of refurbishing and attaching the trusses out on Valley Cross Road. This is a picture for you. And they also elected not to pay for the timber railing, the guardrail, the approach rail, and then the timber railing on the bridge. Mainly because the rail that they would approve is about a third of the price, and since they're paying 80% of the bill, then they have restrictions. But they did approve payment for the stone veneer on the sides. So I know the town's probably been trying to decide, been weighing whether or not to spend. I think it was $107,000 we estimated for just the cost of taking the truss off, fixing it up, repairing it, painting it, and putting it back on. That's a big price. So we started looking at some other options of like Bert was asking, well, what's the bridge going to look like if there isn't a truss there? We'll lose all its distinctiveness that we have out there now. And essentially, the landscape architects in our office came up with this sketch to kind of show one possible option of what it might look like if you'd elect to either do the trusses later or maybe not do them at all at this site, maybe move somewhere else. Those are all possibilities. So what we laid out here is just a lot of things that we already agreed upon. And those looks like timber decking, but it's not timber decking. It's just it's still concrete. It's a bare concrete deck, but we can actually put lines in it to make it look a bit more like timber. And actually, if you go under like the Dundee Bridge we looked at today, you can still see the formwork underneath the slab there. And sometimes you can still see the pattern of the wood. That's something we could actually probably pretty inexpensively on this bridge. So that's the spare deck. This shows a sidewalk that's elliptical in shape, as opposed to having a walkway and overlook back here. At the last meeting a year ago, we talked about how if you're down here on the bridge, you're not really seeing Jackson Falls. You're not really looking down upon the best view. The best view is right out here in midspan. So it'd come out maybe a little wider. It's existing 4-foot sidewalk. The proposed sidewalk was shown here, and I actually have more sketches, but I only have one easel, which I'll show in a minute. But it shows a 5-foot sidewalk that actually widens out to 6 feet at midspan. So as you get out there and it's a wedding party or something, and they're taking pictures, there's a little bit more room for them. So it shows that. It shows the stone veneer, which was approved, as I said. And there's 4 stone parapets. And this is the idea of a landscape architect, not a structural engineer, but they thought that because there's so much stone there, all the stone wing walls, that if you could actually maybe accent it without, in the absence of the truss, you can actually just have show the stone veneer on these parapets that make up the, and it's just something New Hampshire DOT used to do a lot. They used to, if you ever look at these older bridges from the 50s, they used to have these concrete parapets or pilasters at the end of the bridge. I don't call them parapets, but really they're pilasters that basically would attach the approach rail, would come attached to it, and then they'd have bridge rail, and then they'd have the approach rail after that. So this is just an option of maybe something you could try to decide on if that's something you might like. And as a replacement for actually having the trusses back on the bridge. And I'm not done.
Do you have cost estimates for that versus the 107,000?
Well, the cost is probably, no, I don't have exact cost estimates yet. I'm still, I'll get into that a little bit later, but the cost difference for doing something like this, for having the deck a little bit wider, coming out an extra foot, it's insignificant. It might be like a 5% difference in cost, considering that the deck is the full width and just come out an extra foot maximum than it would be already. It's insignificant. And I don't think the state would have any interest in that. The parapets, again, those are materials you already have on site. If you remove those stone wing walls, when we remove those stone wing walls, they can actually cut them on site and actually cast in place the concrete at the 4 corners and then just attach those as a stone veneer as well. So just saving it, everything, the materials on site, like I said, is some labor, and they're already doing all this, stone cutting and placing the veneer that the state's already approved. A little bit extra square footage is not going to be significant either. That might increase the cost for the stone veneer 10, 15%.
How do you define significant?
Like 5-10%, something like that. Yeah, if you consider like all that area, you have this whole wing wall, you have the abutment, you have another wing wall, and that's how we estimated when we got approved by New Hampshire DOT. And then you have another wing wall and another abutment, another wing wall. 4 little pilasters is, that's probably less than 5% extra square foot area.
And what would the maintenance be on that?
On the stone veneer?
Yeah, and
Nothing.
That whole proposal, I mean, like looking at the fencing and stuff, that would be all the same as what?
It's going to be far less than the maintenance you have out there now. The decking is this bare concrete deck that's not requiring maintenance. We're now proposing that the sidewalk also be concrete in case you do actually want to come back later and put the trusses on the bridge. There'll be a concrete slab there, ready to accept it. The railings, that's a topic I was hoping to really address in the preliminary phase. For the study phase, I was really focusing on the veneer, big cost item, the truss, big cost item, and the guardrail is a big cost item. But the railing is much less than those items, so I was hoping to really delve deeper in that for the next phase. So the railing, I will add that the bridge rail, the existing rail,
Can I ask a quick question? So the packet that the selectmen have tonight that they're supposed to approve the revised scope. Can they approve the revised scope without having all this information finalized, or does this have to be decided first?
No, it does. So the study phase, you really want to just get the bigger pieces figured out. Like, I know that the railing, we could go different ways. We could have new railing, we could refurbish and repair the old railing. There's probably not significant cost difference in that, because you have to, because I do have pictures here. It's easier to talk to this. So the railing that's out there now, you can see that this is a post and it's a beautiful rail. We definitely would like to keep keep most of it, keep that appearance, because it's distinctive, it's historical, and it's valuable. It's a great ironworks here, or metalworks. But you can see here that it's like the post is not all that sturdy. You can see that the openings here, we actually measured out in the field. You need to have a opening in the rail that's 4 inches or smaller. For small children, they don't want to get their heads stuck out there and parts of their bodies stuck there. So you can see here it's greater than 4 inches in a lot of these areas. So we'd have to actually, if we kept this rail and kept it straight and didn't do the curvature that I'm showing there, you'd still have to do work to the rail itself anyway. Mm-hmm. You'd have to put some more, you'd have to put new posts in, you'd have to put some rails, maybe some more verticals. It needs work to be up to some standard and safe level. And again, if you go with the elliptical sidewalk, if you like that idea of having a little wider midspan, then all of a sudden you're going, rail that's this long now needs to be this long. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could do this, but you could also recreate this. I was trying to find last minute a picture of something similar where we actually fabricated a new rail that looks similar to this. Or you can fabricate something that looks similar that is, meets standards that you need, safety standards.
But we don't have an estimate for some kind of cost for that, obviously, because it's...
Yeah. So for the study phase, I basically put in, as you start the project and you go out, you start with a higher contingency, and I had 25% for the early study phase, and as we get to the final estimate, it becomes zero contingency. Mm-hmm. So in the engineer report, which you'll see later, that the cost of the rail is included in the contingency. It's the 25% rail covers that. But as we move on preliminary to my next estimate, I will have a more detailed estimate for the rail.
So if they approve the packet tonight for the revised scope, what are they saying to DOT? What are they saying that they're approving exactly?
They're approving, basically that the DOT, if they want to put the truss on, they have to pay for it themselves.
Oh, that's what, okay.
Yeah.
So that's they're really acknowledging that.
Yeah, so DOT, they really care about basically, I guess, what it's going to cost. They were, I think they're good enough to realize it is a wild and scenic river, and that the stone veneer was important to maintain that appearance, which is you're supposed to try to at least maintain the existing appearance and make any changes to something like a bridge. So they did approve that payment. I think that cost was about around $40-something thousand. But the other two things that were the larger items was the bridge rail and the truss. They decided not to.
Okay. So
I know, Bert, we've had conversations. We exchanged email, and you mentioned talking about maybe applying political pressure. We're talking about dealing with DOT, maybe saying, hey, we really, really, really think this is important. Maybe we could do. We wouldn't get involved in that on our level.
Guys.
That's all I was wondering, if it was worthwhile to go back to the state.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I was just wondering if it was worthwhile to go back to the state if the town wrote a letter sort of explaining the, sort of aesthetics and importance of that, and seeing if they do it, or if you tell us, hey, that's no chance of it, or we wouldn't waste our time doing it, something along those lines. So if the selectmen write a letter, you get the historical society maybe just write the letter, or maybe
I don't think it could hurt.
Politician to support it from Jackson here, that there was some state reps for here that do it, and then you go back and say, hey. And this goes back on the selectmen too, is maybe they don't have a desire to have the trusses back on the bridge. I know partly from Pat's perspective, it's from a maintenance, the trusses are probably more of a hassle than, be easier maintenance-wise without them, but aesthetically, not so much. So I guess you guys, as a selectman, you guys would want to weigh in to see whether you would want to try to do that, or And if you could let us know whether you think it stands a chance or not, or
I think it couldn't hurt if you are willing to make the effort. I think it couldn't hurt for sure. Maybe they would change their mind. Maybe they'd meet you halfway. I don't know. I can't say what the DOT would decide.
So does that mean they would have to wait to approve, they would have to wait?
No.
No, okay.
No, so that's something actually Bert brought up before too, is what's the timing for the trust? Do we do this right away, or do we try to find the funding? We could actually probably move forward, and I would start the process as soon as possible, but we could still move forward. So there's a lot. So you're asking like, what are you guys approving? You're approving basically the engineering report, which states that we'd be proceeding with the concrete deck. We'd be proceeding with the 5-foot sidewalk and the stone veneer and the abutment widening. Those are all the big items. That's what you're really approving. And then like the railing, we'll figure out we're either going to use that same railing, which would be our first choice, or something that's very similar. We definitely want to maintain the historical integrity of what's out there now. It's a beautiful rail. It just needs to be safer.
So maybe this is a question because I haven't been here during the whole phase. Why were the trusses not covered in the original plan and approval for the $800,000?
Oh, I put that cost in originally.
The DOT said no.
I know, why?
if they're not structural, so they're only there for aesthetics.
Right.
DOT,
But are we just finding out that the DOT didn't want to pay for the coverage of that?
No, they sent a letter, was it back in early spring or something? It was a while ago. They actually came, so they reviewed the engineering report. So first I submitted to the town, I had comments, I addressed the comments, and I submitted to DOT. And then they reviewed it, and they came back and said, yeah, they had like a question about the design speed, which, that this road's there's not a lot you can do there. Plus it's one lane and it's low traffic. So they're like, okay, I think it's more or less a question. And they talked about the trust, and they said, well, we can't justify participating in something that's, like Burr said, it's just there, it's ornamental. Yeah, it's not structural. It's just, even out there right now, it's just attached to the bridge, and that's basically your bridge rail.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing preventing you from going into Wildcat River.
Barbara, I think a lot of the Bridge Aid program that the state does, they don't give money for walks. They give money
I get all
for
that.
basic
I was
bridge
just wondering
design.
if we're just finding out that they're not
I
paying
think-
for it and what the
I
cost was.
remember way back
Oh.
that it was pretty much, everybody's pretty much knew the state wasn't gonna pay for that. Because of the Bridge Aid program, it's just,
We just figured it couldn't hurt to ask and see what they would pay for it. And it worked out well in the fact that the stone veneer, they offered to pay for that.
Mhm.
This is your care package.
Okay.
This has the letter from New Hampshire DOT,
Yeah.
so you've seen this.
Yeah.
This is Burr's recommendation for notice to proceed. This is the scope. This is the engineering report. This is all stuff you've already seen. I figured at worst I could always,
No, that's
if you
fine. I
don't want
appreciate
it,
it.
that's fine too. These are the meeting minutes from the last meeting we had here a year ago. And this is the presentation that you missed,
Okay.
unless you watched it on TV. So I guess the other topic too is the bridge rail. We haven't touched upon that yet.
Yeah, so if you're not having the trusses, what are you gonna have on the other side?
I do have, maybe before I get to the bridge rail, I will talk briefly about, so these are some other views. You can see, unfortunately, Ron and Bob, our landscape architects, are too busy to color this one. They did color the other one, so that was good. But this is just a view of what you might see, pilasters, some railing, and without the trusses. Just trying to give you some views of that as well. These are some options. They had a slope back on this and then kind of trickle down to like what you saw on, here with the stone from the wing walls. And then this one here is, first I thought this was, they were trying to draw the truss on there, but no, that's actually, they said, well, if you just put some arch-shaped railing on there, it might, and you don't get the same quality as a historic truss for sure by a lot, but it's something that, that distinguishes the bridge from the surroundings. And this one's for Pat. This is a picture of the concrete deck that has a concrete sidewalk, and then the railings attached at the end.
If we get the concrete to look like wood, are we still going to get that sound of thunder when we drive over it?
No.
It's not going to happen.
No.
That's to
No,
my
there'll be no
childhood
thunder.
memories are going away.
No thunder, no lightning.
We're going to have to put some
Now, and
money in
actually-
the budget for some sound effects.
So when you get the artist involved, he also actually was drawing up, you see these lines, these jagged lines and everything. the idea that Bob had, who sketched this thing up, was, you know, if you have this kind of random pattern of the stones on the wing walls, you can actually show a similar pattern for the sidewalk approaching that, you know, has, so it looks like actually you're like walking on the stone. It's nice and smooth. And these lines actually act as control joints to alleviate cracking of the concrete. And yeah, so those are just some of the features that, I mean, totally your option. These are low expense. These aren't so much study phase, just to give you ideas of maybe what you might like.
How high is the railing on the far side, opposite the walkway?
On this side?
Yes.
Well, that was not drawn by a bridge engineer, so they just kind of sketched it in. What you would probably more likely see is, it's like your segue there too, John, to the going is the bridge rail. This is the bridge rail that in the second estimate that I just gave you in your package. There is an estimate in there in the engineering report. This is the T101 rail. This is a W shape. It's like the same thing that you see if you guys probably drove through the Franconia Notch. You see like they have that weathering steel or brown. Well, it was all weathering steel, but it was corroding at the attachment where the posts were attached to the guardrail. So they're replacing all that with just galvanized painted brown. So this is what it looks like if it's just galvanized. This is actually down the road from my house. This is a standard DOT project with, you see the sidewalk has T4, it's tubular steel railing going through there. Now, you're probably thinking like the galvanized steel looks kind of industrial, right? That's the word that Burr likes to use a lot. It can be painted. This isn't exactly what it looks like, but could be something similar to this. This is tubular steel and it's painted brown. And this is the timber approach rail that we had previously that's now dropped 1/3 in price.
How high is that though? I mean,
yeah, so the height of this rail is probably, I didn't bring a drawing with me, but I would say it's probably about 3 feet. It's not too tall.
I would think you have to have something a little taller so somebody could walk on that side of the bridge, even though it's not part of the walkway. I've seen many people on that side. I wouldn't want them to fall over there.
Right, yeah, so, well, here there's no sidewalks, so they say, well, do you happen to fall over it? There's not supposed to be pedestrians there, I guess, so.
There is no sidewalk, so that's just vehicle way.
Right.
So there is no code requirement to have 42-inch high with 4-inch openings on that side of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you may want to do something.
That concerns me a little bit, because people walk off the sidewalk, I mean, on that side, like looking up towards Eagle, they want to take pictures on both sides of the bridge. And
Back up taking pictures of wedding ones.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to, if you're that concerned about it, there could be some fencing put on there. I'll see. That's going more probably on the industrial side, but.
Are you required to have a bump rail between the roadway and the sidewalk?
Required to have a bump rail? No. So you're
So
saying,
you could eliminate that whole
can you have something like this where you have the roadway? I'm sorry, guys.
roadway,
the
sidewalk, and then the
rail.
bridge rail?
I was just telling Burr, I think earlier, maybe it was Jay, but this is usually typically what, I think it was Jay. Well, this is typically what it is like. It's usually, it's not like we're proposing here. Okay. No, for this one, you can see that, the roadway, your railing, and then there's that separation between traffic and sidewalk. You have actually your bridge rail is between.
So if you don't have it along the edge of the travel way, then you have to move it over to the edge of the bridge, so that ornamental fence would have a vehicle, W4 or whatever, T4, whatever he calls them, for rails there, in addition to the other one. So,
Yeah.
So it's one, you have to have it in one place or the other.
Right.
Yeah. So what this actually allows you to do too is that usually there isn't a truss attached to a bridge, so this actually protects the truss from plows and everything else. The railing and the curb actually will take that. And the same thing on this side. So this is where I was talking about before. If you have the concrete deck coming all the way across, can everyone see that okay? Then you can actually come back later and put in the trusses at a later date if you wanted to. If you remove them, have them refurbished, and then attach them later. But I did point out too in an email that the costs by change from converting to the fancy well, not fancy, but the more expensive, I should say, timber guardrail with steel backing and both on the approaches and on the bridge itself, to something that's like this, a T101 that you could paint brown. The price dropped significantly. I mean, like I said, the cost difference is like a third of going from this to this. And what that allows you to do is then, I wrote, I think, an email a while ago that the cost of the truss, instead of saying it's 107, the money you save from just switching with the guardrail to something the DOT would pay 80% of, I think the truss ended up only costing $61,000. I mean, it's still more money, but it's still like the 107, but or roughly, whatever it's going to be, but in that ballpark. But the overall cost of the town is less because we're not trying to do this than at least the original estimate we had.
So can I ask if the selectmen approve the revised scope tonight, would we, from my office, would we have to put a warrant article to see if the town wanted the trusses? And would that be for the 2020 year, or is that something that there would be a hearing about, or how
would we proceed on that?
Yeah.
Well, the town does need to make a decision on the trusses. That's something.
At what point?
I was hoping actually it'd be done sooner than later, actually by now, actually. I think this is what we're here to do today too, is just to figure out what do we want to do? What does the town want to do? You have the numbers, you have the cost. How much do you want the trusses? And do you willing to pay the $107,000 to have them refurbished and reattached? I did, try to find some extra funding through was it the Moose Plate grants?
Right, that was the one for $10,000.
Yeah, that's something. I'm just trying to find it, but that's really what the town needs to do. Is I mean, you can proceed, but they really need to make a decision on what you want to do about the truss. The guardrail, I think, is you're kind of choosing maybe between something like this that's painted and looks nicer, but and then this is a small decision, but you already have the stone facade or veneer, but really you need to kind of make a decision on with the truss, what you're going to do there.
So if the selectmen want more public input on whether to keep the trusses or not, I don't know if they do or they don't. It seems like one option would be that once we get a little further into preliminary design, we could have another public hearing, people could come sort of weigh in on it. And it seems like maybe another option is it could be done as a bid alternate, and then when they bid on the bridge, it's like it's too complicated, but then people can vote for the extra. Now it's $200,000 for the bridge, an extra $100,000, whatever the number is for the trusses or something like that, and do that as a bid alternate. Okay, is that an option too? I'm just throwing that out as an idea.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're kind of gearing towards, is being able to attach the trusses at a later date.
That's what I thought you said we could do if we needed to.
Yeah, you definitely could. Because right now, you have the funding, the state's saying, you're ready to go. You can go ahead and start designing everything else, the abutments, the deck, and everything.
Except the trusses.
Except for the trusses. They're just not going to pay for that.
So could we do that as an option? If they make the decision on this other stuff, can we say, okay, well, the trusses are going to be a warrant article and the town will decide in March? Is that something that's...
That's right.
Yeah, that should be fine, yeah.
Okay.
Would that be a separate construction contract from the whole of the bridge?
I'll probably talk to John Waters about what would be the best way to handle that, because, yeah, you're talking about two separate contracts, because the DOT's not contributing or participating in the trust part, so it'd be a really good idea to do it at the same time as far as mobilization goes, because it'd be cheaper, I think, if the same contractor's doing it. It depends on also when you make your decision what you want to do about the trusses. If this moves ahead and we're designing preliminary design and get the bridge going and get the final design, and then if you're still trying to decide what you're going to do about the trusses, then the bridge is going to be built and you have to do it later.
Well, and I mean, if it were a warrant article in March, the town would decide. So it would either be, we would have the money in March or we wouldn't. So, that would be prior to construction. So.
Yeah, because at this point, because now we're already, it's almost October.
Right.
So I think the 2020 construction season is in jeopardy.
Oh, the 2020 is?
It is, because I did a quick schedule out looking at that. It's like, okay, if we have the 3-month review for working on the preliminary plans, then the town's review, and then go to the final plans, and then the bid and all that, it's looking like midsummer next year, and then might be too late to actually go in there and, you know, demolish the existing bridge and build a new abutment, the addition to it, and then the cap and cutting it down and putting the bearings in and the beams in place and pouring the deck, and then you start to get late in the year, and you want to be pouring concrete in November. It's having cold weather concreting. If it's a footing, it's okay, but if you're on a deck, it's like it gets a lot more expensive and probably highly unlikely. Yeah, stuff like that. And then, well, at least it doesn't have to be paved. You're saving that. The paving plant's shut down in November, so you're not paving it. But you still have to pave the approaches because there's going to be work there too. So you're looking at probably going to 2021 for construction.
Could the bridge be closed for the winter if, you know, let's say they started work next summer and they shut down? Or would that be bad to have it closed?
I don't think it's terribly bad. I mean, it's, you know,
What's that?
I don't think it'd be a terrible hardship to close it for, you know, the season. I'm not real comfortable, you know, voting on $107,000 without public input, you know, without a doubt. Pat?
What would if you put the truss in there, that truss is gonna have to go on the sidewalk, right?
Yeah, it'd actually go, well, on on the sidewalk side, yeah.
Wouldn't that narrow up the sidewalk like a lot? 'Cause
Yeah.
those are,
No, we'd plan for that. We'd actually have, we'd have that width that would be required for the truss itself, and then 5 feet.
okay,
And then an extra
So-
foot at midspan if we do the elliptical shape of the sidewalk.
okay.
No, we
You're
would
gonna keep
not,
a 5-foot sidewalk.
it's not getting less than 5 feet.
And then,
Especially at this site, you don't want to do that without the
and the
pedestrians.
clear space between the run rails, whichever, that's 18 feet, I think I saw.
18
on
feet,
there?
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Correct. Yeah,
So
that's,
at what point is okay, we've missed the 2020 construction date? What is that final date? Or is that already happened?
probably already happened.
Okay.
As I planned out the schedule and everything.
So at what point in 2021 does that construction start?
Well, Bert brought up a good point. If you close the bridge, you can actually probably start in spring if you're just doing demo. And then maybe in April, you already start working the abutments, pouring that concrete. Because that's, again, that they might be able to do a containment area there to keep it warm enough to start doing concrete. But there's demo work to do first anyway. And yeah, I think it'd start in the spring if they close the bridge a little bit early.
Or if that went in as a separate project, trusses, I would imagine the cost would escalate from 107,000, because like you said, you got mobilization, you got safety items, you're gonna have erosion, you know, there's a lot that's gonna come into play as a separate project. Sounds like the 107 would be,
The only
what we estimate would be, it's included in the project would be my guess.
The only offset of that is if it's not going through a DOT contract with things and you handle it on your own.
There's all the safety stuff
You want to
involved.
get rid of a little bit of red tape, you know, if you want to agree to deal with a local fabricator to do the trusses and those things, probably can save a little money.
So I would expect it's gonna go up more than 107,000 as a
So-
separate project.
To interrupt. So I did put together like a snapshot of the different prices then. You can see that, maybe I'll just read this out to you guys. Previously it was $936,000 for the contract, the project, basically for construction. And then with removing the timber guardrail and the trusses, it went down to $707,000. The truss estimate that worked for that was $107,000. Then you can see, I just kind of summarized what the cost was previously for the timber guardrail was $104,000. That was down to $34,600. So that's where I was getting that whole. The truss actually costing closer to $60,000 than $107,000 when you consider what the cost was at $936, around $1 million now. It's less.
So project cost without timber guardrail and truss, is this what the state has approved then?
Correct.
That's basically this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
707, so that really eliminates this letter that was done in May with that proposal, because they're paying 80% of whatever the final cost is going to be.
Correct. So with the town's cost was 20% of the 936. Now it's 20% of the 707. So it's a bit of a savings. So that's something you can consider when
I see what you're saying.
weighing
So that's really good.
weighing your costs with
It's
the trust.
$40,000 roughly.
Yeah,
So that brings that down to 60.
yeah, got it. Now it makes sense. Just just like a little.
So she said the budget would be $700-something-thousand.
707, yeah.
Yeah, so we made the changes.
So the town would only be into it for $150,000 roughly.
But we were originally budgeting just over
211,
two,
yeah.
so you've got, depending on what the town wanted to do, you've got, the 50 in there, so you would be asking for 50 more.
Yeah, there was,
50 or 60, yeah.
it was a significant difference in the cost for the rail. It really
Did
was.
707 include engineering and those things too, that you just had there?
No, that's
So
construction
there's a
cost.
little bit more in there on top of the.
Yeah, but I will point out our engineering fee didn't change. When I submitted that in our scope and everything, there's nothing really different at all.
Julie just thinking 200,000 was the number, thinking we could have 50,000 left over, but if you take 20% engineering, then you could add another 20 or 40,000.
So there'd be a small amount. It's still close to the.
It's still a large amount to
Yeah.
digest as a vote tonight.
So regardless of the trusses though, are you guys prepared to accept a revised?
Yeah, I'd love to know what a cost would be if we have to do it, after the fact, just to have a
Yeah.
counter proposal, see what it would be, after construction to put those in, because I got a feeling some townspeople are gonna like those to be in.
But I think we can treat the trusses, if I understand correctly, as somewhat of a different thing.
Right.
It's gonna be a separate warrant article.
Right.
So that wouldn't affect.
But again, like Jay said, it may be something that's gonna be more expensive to do later, after the fact, than it is at time of construction, which makes
Well,
sense, because
but-
you have everybody
but
there
here's
and
the
all the
thing,
equipment there.
If we put that on a warrant article for 2020, construction's not starting for another year after.
I thought that plan was already
It's
kind
already
of,
done.
already done deal with the,
We've already missed the next year.
deadline.
Yeah,
Deadline
the
anyway.
2020 construction
Right,
season, yeah, we'll probably.
so we would have time to have a separate thing this year, this budget year, to cover the money for the trusses and do it at the same time, if that's what everyone wanted to do.
How did we miss the construction year?
Well-
I thought that was predetermined, that, sort of we were on
Well, no,
schedule for that.
Their review periods, I know DOT was really busy when they were reviewing the engineering report. So like I said, I was here a year ago tomorrow,
Mm.
and we were talking about this stuff. And then we set out, we did the engineering report, prepared it, submitted it, and then the town reviewed it, and then the state reviewed it. But really, I think the trust it's a, like you said, it's a big cost item, and it's not something you just take lightly. So I think that decision was, I feel, is holding up the notice to proceed, is what I'm
And I think
sensing.
since that came out after the town meeting, it wasn't something that we could do this year because.
Correct, that, we found out about that in a letter from New Hampshire DOT, that they were not participating. Right.
So that's,
So yeah, that's how, originally we had a lot less time scheduled to move on to preliminary.
so what are the timelines that need to be met now to guarantee construction in 2021?
Notice to proceed, probably the next, as soon as possible, actually be nice, but right now I have it so that it would be bid, if everything if you're right, I walk out of this room and you're saying, GPI, go run with it. No, you can't do that because you have to actually get a letter and you have to either give it to me or submit it to New Hampshire DOT yourselves. And if you need any help with that letter, I'd be more than willing to help.
Yeah, do you want to draft one and we can send it to these guys to see if it will see if they
Because I was talking to John yesterday, he said, did you offer to draft a letter? I said, well, no, that's fairly town, but I can do that, sure. And then basically say I walk out of here or whatever, or the end of the week or whatever, they get to DOT and they're like, everyone's saying, okay, we're gonna charge ahead. The advertisement date that I came up with based on the schedule, the original schedule were based on preliminary plans take 3 months, and then there's a review period, and then final plans take 6 months, and that kind of thing. The bidding would be in July, probably towards the end of July of 2020. So that's where it's like, okay, you get the bid period, so the plans are done, you get a month later, you're gonna bid, or you advertise it, contractors review it, and then they're ready to start working, but you only have, that's the end of July, so you have August, September, October, that's it. So this will take a little longer than that, just because concrete takes a while to cure. Like a deck, you can load in a deck for really for a month or two, month and a half. So
Does the DOT's website, I believe, has a section where there is projects they're anticipating for 2020. So they have like a pool of money for all these funding projects. Do you know if they have this still for the 2020 schedule, or if they've already bumped it out to 2021?
I don't know if they've moved it yet. I would guess they have not. I would guess that when we do the notice to proceed, we're gonna move ahead, they'll say, oh, guys, it's looking like 2021, and I think they'll just move it down to the next year. The money's there. I talked to DOT and they said the money's there. You're not gonna lose it. They'll just move it to next year. They
Well,
understand these things take a while sometimes.
Rumor has it, more than rumor has it, is that they don't have enough money for all of their coffer for their 2020 projects. So they're pushing things out, making things so they get pushed out so that they can manage that money. So I know of 2 other projects where that's sort of
Yes, I've heard
sort of
some
happening.
similar.
I'm working on another state-funded project, and they told us 2 weeks for the review of the engineering study. It's been almost 3 months so far.
Yeah. So they're actually really starting to limit the municipal projects. So you guys get in there at a good time and get it approved. The funding is approved. They may stretch it out a little bit because of the budgeting concerns. But yeah, they're really pulling back on awarding more municipal projects because they're funding. They're worried about the funding.
And the ones I'm talking about are not cruise projects, but they are other DOT projects.
Yeah. But they may the money's yours. It just maybe maybe they're going to push it out. I don't know. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll delay it a little bit. I can't say. That's something they could answer. But I know the money is scheduled to be yours, and it's not going to expire in 2020 or 2021. There's no. I was told there was no expiration date. Like I said, if they do have budgetary concerns, they may stretch it out, so it may not matter. They may actually.
Wouldn't it make sense if, I mean, definitely get public input on the trusses, but to try and, proceed forward at full steam ahead? And so if bids go out in July and you pick a bidder and construction can start and close the road, if it's closed for the winter, it'd be better for the road to be closed over the winter than it would be all next summer, right? 2021. If it started in spring of 2021 or late spring of 2021, it's going to be closed all summer long.
Right.
If you could get work done late summer, into the fall 2020, and then finishing by early summer 2021, that would seem like it might be better than, as far as the whole tourism and people and summer-wise, as summers are busier. I mean, wintertime, it's not like it's a big hit over there. It's not like they're going across the bridge in the winter,
Yeah. As you know, with contractors, it's a little unpredictable sometimes. They demobilize and they won't come back for a while. But you could potentially, they award it in July, and the contractor goes right out there and starts demoing and building, maybe get the abutments done, the substructure work done. Maybe even in the winter time, they could actually set the beams in place. Probably not the deck. The deck might have to wait till spring, so you have the beams sitting out there for the winter. But that's a possibility.
But they could fabricate the rails and those things over the winter, so that when spring comes, and they just
Yes.
pump them on and not wait till spring to start fabricating or whatever.
And maybe the beams don't, it's the fabric, so there's lead time for this stuff. The steel, these are ruled sections that are really easy to get them. They're specialized plate girders, but there's a waiting period for that, and there's a lot of construction, so there's a lot of people buying steel for different things, so.
I like the idea of the bump out on the sidewalk, but I was thinking with the existing railing that we have already, couldn't you do something like that? So we could use this rail as the existing railing that we have, and then fabricate that little opening there, so, instead of being that shape, just have the bump out in the middle, and that way we can use that railing as much as possible. Would that be something, Paul?
Yeah, that's possible.
Because then you can have, your bride and groom and all that stuff on there, and then the wedding party on the side. I know people like to take pictures up there on that bridge.
Yep.
I do like the elliptical part of it, but I think, if we can use that railing, it might.
I think it might have been Bob who just resigned, I guess, but he, when you read the meeting minutes, I think he was the one who actually had the elliptical idea. Maybe it would be a different idea from like that.
So if you guys are comfortable with the revised scope, we can move ahead with that, and then if you want to forward a letter to me, I can have you guys sign it.
Okay.
Okay.
We can discuss the process as an ongoing thing
Yeah.
for maybe a warrant article for town meeting,
Yeah.
Okay.
just to see like what the dollar amount is that we'd be asking for.
Mhm.
And whether you wanted to do that as, a separate contract or how you wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have that $107,000 price, and if it's a separate thing, I mean, so like I said there, the cost went down to $700,000 from 930, so it's
Mhm.
$120,000. So for that part of the project, so you save money there, but yeah, you still have the 107 or so. I mean, we could actually, and you talked about reaching out to, was it White Mountain fabricators?
Yeah. No, I shouldn't back.
Yeah. We could always have a conversation with them. You already talked to him, maybe I can call him too. Are you going to talk to him?
Well, I've talked to them, I haven't got any names. I've talked to them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could always just maybe talk to them and get an estimate what they would charge. I know, so the 107,000 was based on, I was telling her this earlier, is that, looking at this bridge in Kingston, Massachusetts, where they have these trusses that they did the same thing with and refurbished them and reattached them. Took that cost and factored the difference between Kingston and Massachusetts and New Hampshire. The rates are a little different, and tried to weigh in the time difference. I think this was finished maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's still pretty recent. We tried to weigh all those things, and that's where we came up with the cost for $107,000. But it couldn't hurt to get a little estimate from a local fabricator and see what they do. He said they've worked on it before. They may look at that and say, "Oh, take that off and get it there, and fix it up," because it's not that bad. That one was in much worse shape. Paint it and then ship it back to the site and have a contractor reattach it. It's very light. Doesn't take a really large equipment to lift it and get it in place. And like I said, the deck is going to be ready and willing to accept it. It goes back on.
Yeah, I think that'd be great to get a better estimate, especially if we have to take it to a warrant article.
It never hurts to get a second estimate, that's for sure. Especially a local one like that.
Ready to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the revised scope of services for...
I will make a motion to approve the revised scope of services.
All right.
Judy,
I will second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate it.
Would you like any of this?
I would
Pardon?
like this. Is this ours?
You can have anything
Yeah.
you want.
Do you want a copy of that? Okay.
I just-
In my file.
There's also you have the 11 by 17 of this?
Yes,
Okay.
that should be fine.
This probably fits easily in your bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I really
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Never have computer issues with phone board. Went to one interview once, the screen went totally blue right in the middle of the whole thing. Someone said, "I hit the escape button, that works every time." I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll try to.
All right, item number 6 is a septic system review process. And where we got some forms here we need to approve, I guess, or make
You
official.
have them. I think we have them
We
already.
do.
Yep, I got a copy of it. So give us a little history on this predicament here.
Sure, so, let's see if I can cut it a long story short. One septic design recently off of Green Hill Road or Iron Mountain Road, is kind of, I guess, where that line is, I'm not sure where it is, that the designer was not happy, I guess, in general with the review being denied the approval for the septic system, and sort of questioned our process as to whether we're overstepping our bounds on septic system reviews. So he basically said his opinion was we should just be focused on just the septic system and ignore any other town regulations, just look at septic system components, even just the septic system components of the zoning ordinance. Our stamp that has always said this plan review is for compliance with the zoning ordinance. So I've always reviewed them. As far as I know, there's always been reviewed for compliance with the zoning ordinance, not just on whether the leach field meets the setback to a stream or something like that. It does them all. So we spoke a little bit with the town attorney, and I actually sent the question. The engineer cited a RSA that, I don't know, I guess you could read it however you wanted to read it, the RSA. So I spoke with the DES, the administrator of subsurface, and he spoke with the state's counsel for this, and they said what we're doing is completely we have every right to do that. They just want to make sure that the septic system components are reviewed, but if you guys want to review more than just the septic system components, you're more than welcome to do that. So, long story short, Peter Malia, the town's attorney, said probably you should take some time just to go over the septic system review process and just make sure everybody's still on the same page with how it's being done. It's been done this way for a long time. And then at the end of that, you guys can vote to make a motion to approve the method of reviewing septic system designs.
So is this checklist a new checklist, or you said this is what you've been using for?
Yeah, no, I've used generally the same checklist since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
I've updated it because the zoning ordinance changes, so each time the zoning ordinance changes, sometimes a setback changes or some other requirement comes in that wasn't in there before, so it gets changed occasionally. He initially said maybe we should just make that an official document, and I was sort of saying, well, the problem is then we have to do it every year. We'd have to go back and make an official document. Mm-hmm. So he said, well, then it's probably better just to improve the process and keep it going like this.
So then based on your checklist here, you approve or deny a request for a building permit with septic plan?
It's really not a building permit, it's just the town septic system approval, and then it can go to the state for the state to review really the detailed design portion of it. So just so you understand, so I'm looking at it from not just is the septic system far from the stream, I'm looking at it to make sure that the house is not, isn't in a setback, it's where it needs to be on the lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other components. If you can actually get to the house meeting our driveway standards, because sometimes designers will come in, I've seen this happen, and I've seen huge issues from it too, where they'll come in and they'll just plunk a house on the lot, and you could never get a driveway to it, and they design a system based on it, and then when the contractor then just builds based on that plan, and then suddenly you have a driveway you can't get to it, that the driveway grades are ridiculously steep.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it becomes a huge issue of now the owner doesn't get a driveway to his house, or the town ends up waiving driveway standards, so that you have something that makes it really difficult for emergency services to get to the house.
But do you approve or deny the plan based on that, or do you approve it and would then contact or make recommendations to the property owner that they're not up to standards with the road and access to the property?
Right, so I will deny it based on the reasons on that, and I will send them a letter or an email to the designer. It's always the same process, just saying, look, you don't have, you're not in the building setbacks. Your house has got to get moved over, or it's at a point on the lot where I can tell just from your plan that there's no way you're going to get a driveway from it. If I calculate the distance and the difference in elevation between the road and the house, you're not going to ever make it to the...
So is that where you're getting pushback to?
So this is the one. I've done it this way since 2005.
And the driveway one just happened.
Right.
Another one.
And this is the one, and this designer in particular, they've actually submitted them likewise, but this is one that just, it sounds like part of it was that when the owner went back to the designer to get him to amend the plan, then they get hit for additional fees for revising the plan, and so And the owner's coming back to us saying, well, you're causing us to have to spend more money on the design. And my take is on, well, the design should have complied with the regulations the first time. You know what I mean? If that's what your concern is. So this is the process, I guess, and at least that's how I've been doing the process, and just want to get your input to say, is this the way we want to keep doing it, the way it's been done, or am I being overly restrictive or something along those lines?
Well, I talked with the owners yesterday, and their concern was that, we just want the septic approval. We don't care about the driveway, the house, we got 40 acres of land to put this house on supposedly. And, they just want to get started in putting in a tank. And it seems like that, this is the review process to them, is including things that isn't pertinent to them getting a septic design. And that's what their gripe was. Now, you and I talked in the office last week, and, there was some discussion about a building that was not included on the plan, and that was probably the main reason it didn't get approved, because it wasn't a complete, accurate drawing for what was existing there. Is that stating?
I guess my discussion, I've been trying to keep general for all town projects,
Right.
not so much focused on that.
Right.
But sure, their plan, they did not show an existing house that was already on the parcel plan. So when I came back, looked at the town's files, or I went out to the site, I said, there's a house here, still 500-600 feet away, there's already a house on the lot. So they were wanting to build another house, which 2 houses on a lot require subdivision approval, so number one, they can't do it.
Right.
They can't get a subdivision.
They didn't show it, they didn't say what was going, and then after discussions became, okay, well, we're thinking of taking that house, or we might turn it into an accessory apartment. And my response was, that's fine, but you gotta put it on the plan, because I can't approve a plan with 2 houses on a lot.
Right.
And that's, again, they're saying, just focus on the septic system design, does the design meet the thing? And I'm saying, no, I don't wanna approve a plan that, I don't want to approve a plan that somebody's going to throw back in my face, really, to say, well, look, the town already approved it, and didn't the other ones, which that happens often.
I had this conversation with them yesterday, so they were kind of wondering what we could do to get them up and running. And I know we saw the list of email things that went back and forth of items that probably need to be included in the plan, like access through fire and ambulance rules, because of the class 6 road, we have to have a waiver on that. That would have to be on the plan itself, wouldn't it? As like a footnote or something, no?
Right, I think they would just need to have some note on the plan, that's all we need is some sort of note to that effect.
So I think they're just unclear what they need from their next design.
I think that in the first email back to them, I think I spelled it out to them in black and white exactly what they needed back to them.
Yeah, I think they're still confused.
Very
I am a little bit
correspondence
myself.
back to them, and then they started questioning the whole process, and so. But I think there's a pretty short email responding to their things that just says, "This is what you got to do." It's not.
Hopefully we can work that out.
It's not a huge hurdle to do. It's just you got to do it.
And this will be shared with the engineers, local engineers, so they know what our guidelines are, so, they obviously can meet those without having to do extra work.
Right. I can send it around to them and say, this is the unofficial checklist there, and that'll help them out too with their reviews.
That's what I think it's important.
And
Also,
yeah,
those
and then-
under the septic design, just say these will
Right.
always, these issues will, or these items will also be reviewed at the time.
Right.
And also not knowing the flow of how something works. This has to be done before Kevin inspects anything to approve for a building permit.
He needs a septic system design
Right,
before.
so this
Yeah.
has to be approved before Kevin steps in.
Right.
So if you have any thoughts about not approving this, it wouldn't even get to him yet.
Correct.
And
Or, a lot of
Or
times-
if you approve it and have comments,
Right.
he
A lot
would,
of times I'll write actually notes on the approval
Mhm.
instead of sending it back to them for change plans. If it's something I could just note on the plan that says you have to meet the driveway standards or
Mhm.
something along those lines, I'll just note it on the plan. But this one was just, there wasn't a chance of just noting on the plan. It was, they had to either go through subdivision
much
approval or
other
do
stuff.
other ones, so that's why they got to keep that.
well, I think the checklist is a great idea. I think that if it remains within the scope of what you're hired to do, and then making the recommendations, and if there's concerns about road access or fire access or anything like that, then it should be discussed and noted.
Right.
Sounds logical.
Any other discussion?
And again, I guess I'm just reviewing it enough so that it can, there's a way for them to get through the next process, you know what I'm saying? Again, I don't want to approve a plan that's not buildable. If someone's gonna start building and then find out there's a big problem there.
Mm.
I mean,
All right, well, I'm glad to see something in writing, so I want to make an unofficial list an official list.
Yes.
Definitely.
It's really the process is what we want to approve.
Right.
Not so
Right.
much that official list, because next town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that this could change.
Yeah.
So it's the process of using the checklist and updating it with town, you know,
That's
based
town
on town meetings,
regulations.
and then just using that as a guideline for review.
So potential for updating every year.
Mhm.
You have anything else?
No.
All right. Would you care to make a motion on this list?
I
Checklist?
make a motion to approve the unofficial checklist for the septic system design
And probably also the process.
And
and the process.
The process.
The process
The
of
process.
approval.
All right, I will second. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Alrighty. Moving on.
Joe,
Yes,
while Burr's here, I got a question for you.
please.
And I don't know if we got time to discuss it tonight, but I've got some questions on the fact that that's an existing road that's been there, or driveway, I should say. It's not really a road because it's a driveway. And how we look at existing situations that don't meet code, well, fire access code anyway, at least my side of it. And I had really long, good discussion with Burr about it. We went back and forth on it a lot. I'm not sure if today's the time to discuss it, but me and Kevin are running into a lot of existing situations we're finding that aren't up to code, and then it's like, what do we do? Do we make them upgrade? Do we call it existing and grandfather it, for like lack of a better term?
I think this is going to be a lot of discussion.
Yeah, I just figured while Burr was here, I'd bring it up. I probably don't have time enough to deal with it tonight, but.
My general take on it was, if they're just continuing to use an existing house, then I don't think I think you let sleeping dogs lie. You know, you let sleeping dogs lie, but if they're building new construction off of this, that's when I think you go back and you look at the substandard things and you say, maybe it doesn't need to be brought all the way up to code, but it needs to at least be brought up to a level that Jay can feel comfortable that he can get emergency vehicles there, or those, you know, along those lines of it. So that's, I think most of our regulations say it does have to be bring up. If you look at road standards and those, it does have to be bring up to road standards, but traditionally we've not made them dot every I and cross every T because it becomes really impractical on those existing situations. But
The problem with that particular one is there's two sections. There's a really, really old section that you'd never get to town spec. And then there's a newer section that you probably could get to town spec. And then the other messed up piece to this is it's off a class 6 road. So if you're gonna make somebody sign off and attach to their deed a sign off that says, hey, I'm releasing the town from all liability, and that's getting attached to their deed, which is a resale issue down the road. If somebody was to ask me to put something on my deed, then I'm gonna be like, well, if we're gonna attach this to the deed, then it is what it is. It's steep. So someday we gotta sit down with some time and discuss existing situations because we're running into them more and more.
Is that a selectman discussion or a planning board discussion?
Well, the decision in the end comes down to me and us and the selectmen.
Well, right, but do
The
you want
planning board
to,
don't make the decision as
Right.
to deal with an existing situation.
but do you want to meet with the planning board, have them weigh in and come with a presentation to the selectmen?
I mean, I think if it's a building permit issue, then that's really.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't
If it's a
feel it's,
subdivision one, then we go more to the plan.
the planning board more plans for the future.
Subdivisions and things like that.
They don't deal with existing stuff so much, I don't think.
Would it be clarified though in zoning at all, or not? I mean, as far as, would there be a definition in there about what a grandfathered road is, and so that everyone knows?
In the end, fire access comes down to,
Dick, do you have any thoughts on that, being on the planning board?
Well, I think the planning board can always come up with the wording for any situation. If grandfathered or whatever, 'cause you have a hard time forcing somebody to improve their driveway that has a house that's been there.
Right.
20 years it's been there, you know, but when they ask for a building permit to put an addition on that house, that's when you have the leverage to come in and say, okay, we'll give you that, you know, bedroom or, but you need to bring up to standards or to a new standard. And that's why I don't want it to be too arbitrary.
Right.
You know, it would find the words that you want to use, but you can do it at that time. You can have your addition, but you have to come up to a current standard.
Similar to, commercial construction, like if,
Another company goes in, buy a light, they'll upgrade the light, they'll be forced to upgrade the light to handle the additional traffic for their facility if necessary. That town would require them to make those upgrades. I think there's something we could word.
That's when we have leverage.
Yes.
They want something from us, we can ask for something from them.
Okay.
and I agree, a few of the problems I've seen on some of, I can think of 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 immediately that you can't, like Billy Goat Road for the existing house, I don't believe it's physically possible to bring that up to grade-wise steepness. It's just, there's not enough room. So if, let's just say that existing house, like Dick was just talking about, if they wanted to put a 10 by 10 addition on, and you said, okay, well, there's an existing house, existing driveway, you're okay, but you want to add a 10 by 10 addition, no, you can't, because you can't bring it up to spec. So you're gonna make a lot of stuff in town unbuildable, I think. And that's gonna become an issue on your end. I know many driveways that can't physically be put to code.
But Jay, let's say, just a slightly more clear example is, let's say they want to build a subdivision off the end of Billy Goat Road, right?
Yeah.
The answer is, in my opinion, pretty clearly no, unless you can bring up the road standards if you can't. Because you don't want to subject all these new houses to something that's going to be almost impossible to access.
I think this, and like me and you had talked about on that, the wording on additional traffic. There's definitely, that's a pretty vague statement, because is adding 1 car additional traffic, or is adding a subdivision definitely with 5 houses and 20 cars is additional traffic.
Well, I think adding a house adds traffic to it, It does, if you do the math.
You could add a bedroom and say it's adding traffic. If you change it from 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom, and then you're adding additional traffic too. So it's definitely a tough subject, and me and Kevin, we worked on it a lot this year. We've done a lot of fire access stuff, and it's just trying to figure it out. And we're talking about something right now that was built in 1950, long before zoning.
But can I ask one question? What does the code say, right? You have fire codes.
For a grade?
No. You have fire codes for fire access to houses, right?
Yep.
It covers driveways and those things, right? 50% is that the grade on?
It doesn't give you it tells you to go back to the town standard. On grade, they don't give you a specific pitch. It says to go to what the town standard is.
But does your code say if it's an existing house, you could add on to it and you don't have to comply with more codes?
It doesn't get that specific.
Seems like any new construction you have to comply, right?
Sounds like something we need to look into for sure.
Yeah.
Bring it to the planning board.
Yeah. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's good input. All right, moving on to building inspector. Kevin Bennett is not here today. We have a couple of building permits. First one is on B7 Lot 50. Owner is Ramsey. replace asphalt roof and windows. And the second one is R08 Lot 09C1A, owner's daily, finished basement including half bath and gas stove. Plumbing for the half bath is already in place. There's the 2 building permits for this week.
Yeah.
Any comments on those?
New.
All right, we'll move on to new business. First up is Whitney Center 10-year anniversary celebration. Woo!
Yay. It's just a reminder that Saturday from 5:30 to 8:30 is a potluck and contra dance, and if you can bring something, that's great. If you can't bring something, come to the Whitney Center and celebrate the 10-year anniversary and enjoy Dexter and Lucy, who are going to provide the contra dance part of it. It's free. Again, if you can bring something, bring it. If you can't, just come and enjoy.
Thank you. Item B is Betsy's Harding Planning Board resignation. I'll read this to the town. Excuse me. It says, to the Selectmen of the Town of Jackson, I respectfully resign as an alternate member of the Jackson Planning Board. We have now moved from the town, and I greatly regret leaving the community in which we have been strongly attached since the 1960s. I have greatly appreciated the opportunity to serve on the Jackson Planning Board because I have found it to be an important experience to work with people hoping to make their home or business in Jackson the way they would like it to be, in consideration with what the town permits. People serving at the board are committed to making the appropriate decisions for both the applicants and the town. Please accept my resignation. Sincerely, Betsy Harding. And I deeply thank Betsy for her commitment and for not only the planning board, but many other town activities. And I've known Betsy for a long time, and I really appreciate all her efforts.
Definitely.
And as a result, we have a letter here. It says, Dear Betsy, the Board of Selectmen would like to extend our sincere gratitude for the years you have served as a member of the Jackson Planning Board. The town has been fortunate in its community where residents like you are willing to serve on a volunteer basis. We appreciate your dedication and commitment to the town of Jackson and to the Jackson Planning Board. Your presence in the town will be certainly missed. Ditto on that.
Yes.
And I'll entertain a motion to accept Betsy's
We'll
resignation.
make a motion to accept her resignation.
With regrets, for me anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
And I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank Betsy.
Yeah. She was actually got a little teary at the meeting.
All right.
Yeah.
So she cares.
She does.
Item C, trustee of the trust funds, a withdrawal request. It says, Dear trustees, the Board of Selectmen are requesting the following withdrawals from the trust funds as indicated below. $22,416.84 from the Transfer Station Expendable Trust Fund 0028. R&D Paving dated 9/4/19, invoice 5282. Please make the checks out the town of Jackson for the withdrawal amounts requested above. And I'll entertain a motion for that.
I will make a
Withdrawal.
motion to approve the withdrawal of $22,416.84 for Jackson's portion of the paving at the transfer station.
Which looks beautiful, by the way.
Yes.
I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Paving around the circuit looks good too.
Yes.
And since we're on the record, I thank Pat and the guys and girls and everybody who's
Yeah.
involved with ladies of the getting the Dundee fixed. That was really nice. It's my favorite road, and this is the best time of year to go down it.
Yeah. Don't speed.
Don't speed.
It's hard.
Cruise control.
Yeah.
All right, next on the docket, liquor extension license request. This one is, says, Dear Selectmen, this letter serves request to extend our current liquor license 1352503 to the outside Whitney's Inn skating rink area. We would like to erect a 40 by 80 wedding tent for a wedding taking place on Saturday, October 5th, 2019. We will also notify Jay Henry, so he can expect the tent prior to the event. Liquor Commission will be reviewing our request pending approval from the town of Jackson. I have enclosed a copy as well. And this is from Don Bilger.
And I will make a motion to approve the liquor license extension for Whitney for October 5th.
Thank you. And I will second that. Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Were the wedding invitations attached?
Yeah, I didn't see any.
Didn't see any. Darn.
My gifts in the mail. All right, and last item, new business, at least we have down here, is the fuel bids. We have fuel bids from White Mountain Oil and Eastern Propane. And looks like White Mountain Oil came in significantly under Eastern on every account. So I think we'll entertain a motion to accept White Mountain Oil as our supplier for oil, propane, and diesel.
I will make a motion to approve them as our existing vendor and stick with them based on their prices for the oil.
And I said propane was
Propane.
diesel and fuel. I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nothing to sign there.
No. You should see if we can get them to give us the employee discount too.
Yeah.
Right, I will.
I want my $2.
All right. Any other new business? Anybody have
I
any
do
other-
not have any other new business.
Old business, school bus parking.
So I asked Jerry Doherty if he could let us know if that was still needed. We've gotten all the approvals from, legal saying town could take that over, library said it was okay, but I don't know if there's a need still. But I can put that on.
Follow that up?
Yeah.
Where's it being parked now?
Well, there's
That's
one
where
that's still
we
over
should-
there. I don't know where the other one's being parked.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know,
I think he's temporarily been just keeping it home for some reason.
but, okay, so
That's Ryan.
we can follow up.
They switched, Ryan was parking over there and now Lou's parking over there, so and there really wasn't an issue if they needed to park both buses there right now, it was more of a future.
Right. Winter thing.
Winter is the major
Right.
issue, so I'm pretty sure still, Jerry's gonna probably pay, it needs to be,
Can't do both
we
of
definitely
them.
Right,
have to
that's
figure
what I
out
was
something.
Yeah.
Kind of figured.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, like I said, we got a little bit of time, hopefully, before winter comes.
Yes.
I don't want it to be October 18th again like it was last year.
No kidding.
So, yeah, well, I saw Doc the other day. I didn't think about asking when I saw him, but.
Wow.
All right, old business, fire station building committee appointments. We have a list here: Jerry Doherty, Hank Dresch, Dick Bennett, Ebony Dale, Bill Kelly, Jay Henry, yours truly, Pat and Kelly, and Peter Benson.
Now, the only issue with that is
Yeah.
now two selectmen.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I just thought.
Yep. So that's why I didn't acknowledge that before the meeting, obviously, when you had this in, Jay, but Dick and I can't both be on the
Right.
committee, so.
I'm gonna table that till next meeting, so you guys can figure that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll work on
that's
that.
fine.
If anybody else,
And I don't think we have any other meetings scheduled, so I think we're,
Yeah, and the planning
Fine.
board will have to be decided as well.
yeah.
Okay,
we'll
yeah,
work that
that's
out
right.
Next time we meet then. All right, we'll table
play a
that.
little rock, paper, scissors. See who gets to be on the committee.
I like it when everybody stands up and everybody steps back and you're left.
Yeah. I like it. Good game show.
Right.
Good, so
All
we'll.
right, so we'll table that for
Take
next meeting, and
Yeah.
thank you all for those people who have already stepped up to do that. It's, appreciate that. Item 10, public comments. Meeting today, everybody's wiped out? All righty, I hear that. We don't have a non-public, right?
Correct, we do.
All right, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, thank you all for coming, appreciate it. And I will second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Can I
Hank.
get a folder
Whenever
here or
you're ready. Take your time.
Congratulations, awesome.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Let Jay speak. What?
We need to-
said, don't ever let Jay speak.